only person that can truly support you is yourself. But if you don't have the mindset to match those actions, it won't work. I cannot do this anymore. I cannot live this way anymore. Hi everyone, my name is Gigi and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is all about the journey that I personally went on in becoming a better version of myself and loving myself more. I made a very similar video to this in the past, back when I first started my YouTube channel, but in that video I more went over the tools that I used to help me love myself more and become a better version of myself. But in this video, I want to go through the actual phases that I went through on my own journey in hopes that it might help prepare you a little bit for what is going to come. I think that knowing the phases that you could possibly go through is just as important as knowing the tools you need to use during those phases. I think if I had more of a general outline of things that were going to happen or could possibly happen to me to kind of give me some sort of guide of what is going to happen, I would have felt a lot more secure during my own journey. So I'm hoping today's video can shed a little bit of light for people on what could happen to you during your own self-development journey. So I have wrote everything down, all of the phases that I personally feel like were really significant for me and what had to happen for me to get to the point that I'm at today. Of course, just a little bit of a disclaimer before we continue. Obviously, everyone's journey is going to look different. Everyone is different, everyone's lives are different, everyone's had different experiences, so you might not have the same experience as I did. But I feel like these phases are quite generalized, so it's not as though I'm getting super personal with every single thing. So I feel like these could help a lot of people. So the first thing that happened for me, and I feel like this was the first moment that I realized that I was going to go on a journey, was what I like to call the event. Something happening that makes you face reality. A lot of the time, this is a really traumatic event for a lot of people. Something that makes them sit down and say to themselves, I cannot do this anymore. I cannot live this way anymore. Now, this can be one big thing or a collection of really small things happening all at once, but whichever way it happens, it's the moment you realize that you cannot live the same way. And I feel like this experience, this first domino falling in the line of events, is the thing that starts your own journey. The moment you realize you cannot continue. For me personally, it was a breakup. I had everything, all of my worst fears, all of my worst habits, everything I did not like about myself laid out in front of me. I was forced to face who I was, which for every single day up until then, I tried to ignore. I knew I needed help, I knew I needed to change, but that was incredibly scary to me. So imagine the moment that the person that you think that loves you the most, cares for you the most, leaves you, and you're faced with the reality of who you are. That was the moment for me that I truly knew that I needed to change because I could not be that same person. The next phase for me is a phase that I like to call the reflection. This is a time period of my life straight after the event happened where I just let myself feel everything. All of the emotions that I needed to feel, I let myself feel. During this time, I felt angry, I felt sad, I felt confused. Some days I'd wake up and feel very powerful and very clear-headed, and then other days I would feel awful and like my world was ending. I had days where I felt really guilty, really angry, really sad. Days where I regretted all of the things I did previously and questioned why I did them or said them in the first place. And for me, this phase lasted, I would say, a good 2 months of just battling with my own inner thoughts of how I thought about myself, what I thought about my past self. And as bad as it sounds, this phase is so important when it comes to your journey because this phase is you realizing you cannot be like that anymore. You're ashamed of yourself. You don't like your past actions. You want to get better, you want to do better, and you know you have to change. This entire process is quite literally you waking up. It's you realizing you've been living on this autopilot where you're doing things without thinking about it, you're saying things without thinking about it, you're doing the same routine over and over, and that's not working for you anymore. And now you've woken up, it's time for the next phase, which is what I like to call the flip. The reason I call it the flip is because at this particular point in my life, this is where I felt like everything changed. I went from living in those behaviors that were damaging towards me and the people around me, living in that same routine on autopilot all the time, not getting better, to suddenly becoming very aware of myself, to understanding where I was going wrong and then wanting to change it. For me, this looked like trying new things. I started going to the gym, I started trying new styles out, I tried different routines for myself, I tried eating healthier, doing my hair differently, doing my makeup differently, trying on different clothes. Whatever it was to make me feel different than my past self, I tried it. This entire phase was about exploring who I actually was and who I wanted to be. It was at this point where I made a list of my current self versus who I wanted myself to be, what the better version of myself looked like, and I compared them. I went into detail of who I wanted to be, what I wanted to look like, how I wanted to sound and dress, what I wanted my future to look like, what I acted like. And I compared the future version of myself, the better version, to the current version, and I saw the differences between them. When I did that, I knew what I had to change, and that's what I started changing. Now, like with every journey, there's ups and downs, and I feel like at this moment, I again felt like I was down, because this next phase is the realization that you cannot do anything if you don't have the mindset to match. You can do the actions, you can start the new routines, start going to the gym, start eating healthier, whatever it is. But if you don't have the mindset to match those actions, it won't work. And I experienced this. I experienced the fatigue, the wear out, the overstimulation. I was confused, I was lost, I was feeling like an imposter in my own body because I was doing the actions my mindset didn't match. And because I didn't have the discipline yet, because I didn't love myself yet, I was finding it difficult to continue with these new routines and continue in this new, better version of myself because truly on the inside, I didn't feel like it. So coming to that realization that it's not just about what you do, but how you think, I knew I needed to continue on my journey, that it was a lot more deeper than just changing routines, dressing differently. That's when the self-discovery phase came in. As much as starting routines, trying new things helped me at first, because I didn't have the mindset to go with it, the self-discovery phase was so important because this was the point that I realized what helped me in becoming the better version of myself. I watched endless videos, read endless books, annotated everything, really went into different things that I could do to help my mindset as well as my routines and how I viewed myself. I learned different methods, things like changing the way that I spoke about myself, viewing myself differently in the mirror, not talking bad about myself when I'm talking about myself to other people, not constantly putting myself down, journaling, talking through my feelings to myself and also writing them down on physical paper. Things like exploring my relationship with God, figuring out who God was to me, and if he truly was what I thought he was. All of these things put together, bit by bit, helped me in becoming the better version of myself because I had the routines, I had the gym, I had the wanting to eat healthier, but I didn't have the discipline and the mindset to go with it. So now that I started on that journey, now that I worked on my actual mindset, at this point, you're unstoppable. And I felt unstoppable because I had the toolkit now. I had the routine, I had the vision, I knew who I wanted to be, and then I had the discipline and the mindset to go with it. Because the only person that can truly support you is yourself. And if you don't have that support, you could have everyone around you cheering on and you still won't do something. That is how important it is. And the last part, and the phase that I still feel like I'm in today, is the journey. You can work every single day and there is no end. That's what I think the most beautiful part about being on your self-discovery and self-development journey and loving yourself and simply just working on yourself every single day is that it's not some finish line you need to reach, something that you need to rush towards to finish. Every single day you are working on yourself and becoming a better version of yourself. And I realized this early on, that until the day that you die, you will always be becoming the better version of yourself. You're always experiencing new things, doing new things to help you, learning new lessons through experiences, and that is what is truly important, and that is how you're meant to live your life. There's no just getting better. It's every single day continuing to be better, choosing that for yourself, evolving who you are. And when you realize that, it is so important to always reflect on how far you've come. The only person that you should be comparing yourself to is you. And I love doing this because me 2 years ago, nothing like the girl that is sat here today in front of you all. And that is what I am the most proud of. I hope this video was able to give you some sort of insight into what you could be facing going on your own journey and the kind of challenges you might face personally. What I think is important to focus on is the fact is that I am here today because I went through all of that, because I did the work and I continue to do it. It's not as scary as it seems, it's not as difficult as it seems, and I feel like if I can do it, anyone can. No matter who you are, you can choose right now, right this second, to better yourself. That is all from me today. I hope you have enjoyed today's video. If you did, don't forget to comment down below and I will try and get back to every single comment. Don't forget to subscribe and I will see you in the next video. Bye!